depending on the queen.
Well, I was there, I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes.
Thank you so much for joining me in the throne room today. My name is Elle, and let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of season 8. Definitely, this is something that I really love to see Game of Thrones on screen yet again, another year. We waited so long, so this is definitely a very important moment as Dany walks in with her procession. Well, not walk, well, she's riding her horse. And she basically, is brought in the same way that Robert Baratheon was, and Cersei and the Lannisters. This time it's Daenerys and her crew, which is Jon Snow, Gendry. It's a new procession, and it's really interesting because I really feel like Arya was happy to see Jon, but he didn't look at her, and she was like kind of upset about that. And then she saw Gendry, and she made a bigger smile. He didn't even notice her either because there's just so many people. And then Varys and Tyrion speak. Very interesting
Tyrion's told everybody that the Lannisters are coming
about
to join the cause, and it's amazing to her that...
And you don't. I thought that was really funny as well. It doesn't surprise me that as they enter into Winterfell, the dragons fly over, and Sansa actually looks at them, and she looks pissed. I don't think she's going to be a very happy camper this season, just from what I can tell from watching episode 1 for the first time. I really feel like Sansa's going to be a big issue. I told you about this before even the season came out. Out of all the leaks, I just kind of don't want to sit there and engage in them because a lot of the stuff did not come true the way they said. So let's just be honest about that. Now, the issue is with everything is that Sansa actually thinks there's time to go back and forth with Daenerys, and Bran's like, we don't have time for this, and I felt that was very fitting for the situation because nobody has time for that. People are going to die, and you're over here worried about who's going to sit on the throne. Jon, comes in, sees Bran, tells him, you're a man now. He's all, almost. I like the fact that they did reunite. I really feel like Bran's working for Jon in some secret way. I don't know. I feel like to put him on the throne, but I don't understand. We'll all understand at the end of season 8 on episode 6, which will be the finale of everything. And then, unfortunately for all of us, we won't have Game of Thrones.
Jon Snow and
I also feel like this episode was very interesting for the fact that Cersei actually was with Euron Greyjoy. I think she was very upset for the fact that they were together. Even though she said you have to earn her, he already earned, her respect because she gave him a lot. He gave her a lot of things that she would have normally have received. If Jaime wasn't hurt, then fine. But because Jon Snow is actually the heir, it really doesn't matter what Euron or Cersei does. I think that everything's happening because it's all going to be either Jon and Daenerys being the king and queen or one. But now that she's, at this point in time, now that she's in Winterfell, I feel like the people don't like her. They don't like Missandei or Grey Worm. And I felt that when I heard their conversation where Missandei was just feeling so out of place, Grey Worm came to her and was like, we could leave here. You don't want to grow old here and be in this place. Where would you like to go? And she's like, I want to go back to Nothe. And I just feel like out of all the seasons, this is the one where she looks very depressed. And it's probably because she's never been in a cold area like that before. I also feel like in many ways that Arya has grown so much. And even though before she hated Sansa, that's just something that as a child, if you're so much different, you don't really get along. But I also think that it's interesting that her and Jon has such a great bond that she loves him no matter what he does. And I think that's going to be interesting to see at the end of the season because I feel like whereas Sansa doesn't really like Jon, never really did, to be quite honest with you, till now, she really does not want Daenerys to be queen. And Arya tells Jon that, and he's like, well, she thinks she's smarter than everybody. And he's like, she's the smartest person I know. And that goes back to what she said to her at the end of season 7. So I feel like Arya has a lot of respect for Sansa because she doesn't want to be Lady of Winterfell. She doesn't feel that's her place. But I feel like with Gendry coming back into this story, it's going to be very interesting to see where the relationship actually goes. I hope that he becomes a lord some kind of way, but I'm not really sure. I also feel like in many cases for this particular season, I feel like there was a lot of loose ends that needed to be tied up, and Theon was actually able to complete a mission of getting Yara off the ship. And I like how it came out that, Euron wasn't in the ship and he snuck on, took her, and she goes back to the Iron Islands and tells him, hey, you want to fight for Winterfell, go with them. And she tells him to kill everybody, basically. And she knows, I feel like in many cases, it'll be the last time she sees her brother. So, I don't know. It's just going to be very bittersweet, like R.R. Martin said, George R.R. Martin said. And I feel like in many cases, a lot of the characters have come to the end of their arc. Arya's changed.
But I don't know if you